Folks, I'm pulling out the apology form for Anthony Weaver and this Dolphins defensive coaching staff, and I'm signing it. Because over the last month, the Miami Dolphins defense has done a complete 180. It has gone from arguably the worst defense in the NFL, it was either them and the Dallas Cowboys, to, no joke, a defense that is playing about, I'd say, top half defensive football in the entire NFL. And you have to give credit to defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver coaching these young guys up, starting to get the right play calls dialed up, as well as playing good situational football. I mean, let's look at the difference from the first 6 weeks of the year to the last 4 weeks of the year. On the left, you see it 29 points per game. 31st in EPA per play, 31st in EPA per dropback, and 30th in EPA per rush. They were the worst or second worst defense in the NFL. But over the last 4 weeks, which includes games against the Cleveland Browns, the Baltimore Ravens, the Atlanta Falcons, and the Buffalo Bills, Miami has the best run defense in the NFL. Are you kidding me? That is unfathomable. If you told me a month ago, heading into this stretch against Cleveland, Baltimore, Atlanta, and Buffalo, Miami would come out of that month by having the best run defense in that 4-week sample size, I would have told you you're off your rocker and I would like to know where your dealer is for those drugs. Instead, you are correct, because that's been the key to the defensive turnaround for the Miami Dolphins. The linebackers, Jordan Brooks and Tyrell Dodson, have been playing with their hair on fire, but the turnarounds from the rookies, Kenneth Grant and Jordan Phillips, have been sensational. I mean, look at the death murderer's row of running backs you played over the last 3 weeks. Bijan Robinson, Derrick Henry, and James Cook. And you held Bijan Robinson under 50 scrimmage yards, by the way. Came into that game against Miami averaging 150 scrimmage yards. He walked out of that game with only 48. Derrick Henry still ran for a $119, but he ripped off like a 40-yard run in the fourth quarter when the game was already put away. You take away that run, it's a measly 18 carries for 78 yards. Like, I'm not moved by Derrick Henry's performance because it all basically came on one garbage time run. And then you bottled up James Cook for 13 carries and 53 yards and even made him fumble as well. You took arguably 3 of the top 6, 7 running backs in football and made them look ordinary, when many around the league projected all 3 of them to go for at least 100 yards on the ground against you and probably rack up a couple scores as well. Anthony Weaver needs to get a lot of credit because he's increased the run blitzes. Miami has put a larger effort into stuffing the box, putting 8 guys in that box, and trusting the secondary of Jack Jones, Rasul Douglas, Juju Brents, Minka Fitzpatrick to not only help set the edge and contain the run, but also play man-to-man on the outside more than they were doing in the first month and a half of the season. And it's ultimately led to better production for this Dolphins defense. But you also can't understate the improvement from the rookie defensive linemen, and we'll look at those numbers coming up here in a second. But I told you, I pulled out and signed the apology form for Anthony Weaver for calling him a bad coach earlier on in the year. And listen, I didn't really do it that much. I think he is a good coach. I'll explain more here. But if you want to join me and sign that apology form, spam those memes. But the Dolphins have changed their tendencies. I talked about how they've been sending more people in the box, sending more people blitzing, not to just rush the passer, but to more or less commit more in the running game. Like, if they believe the opponent is running the football, they are run blitzing. And it has paid dividends for Miami. They have the 4th highest blitz rate in the NFL, the 4th highest heavy box rate, and they've increased their man coverage. The first month of the year, the Dolphins had a top 5 zone rate in the NFL and a bottom 10 man coverage rate. Now it's completely flipped. They're 20th in terms of their zone defense rate against the pass and 13th, so top half in the NFL, in their man coverage rate. They are trusting their DBs to cover in man coverage more often, and it's actually worked. Rasul Douglas has been good. Jack Jones is improving. Minka Fitzpatrick moving from safety to more predominantly in the nickel has changed this Dolphins defense because he's been able to defend in the past, but also be closer to the line of scrimmage to make plays in the run game. It's been phenomenal to witness the change for this Dolphins defense. But I do think the most credit has to be given to the Dolphins rookie defensive linemen. I mean, I was super critical of Kenneth Grant and Jordan Phillips early in the year. But let's be honest and call a spade a spade. It was deserved that they got that type of, I guess, I don't know, want to call it hate, but like me calling them out. Because when you look at them through the first 6 weeks of the year, they were putrid. They were. Kenneth Grant was a bottom 5 graded defensive lineman in the entire NFL on Pro Football Focus. But over the last 4 weeks, look at the improvement from the first round selection out of Michigan. And I know PFF grades aren't telling the whole story. The whole story will be told on the All 22 on the film. You pull out the All 22 on NFL Pro and you watch it. Oh, yeah. You can tell the difference from Kenneth Grant and Jordan Phillips. And Jordan Phillips specifically, although his grades aren't as high as Grant over the last 4 weeks on PFF, Phillips had the best game of his career this past Sunday against the Buffalo Bills. He was so dominant in the run game, and his ability to shed some of these blocks to make tackles on James Cook within the 3 yards of the line of scrimmage was just sensational. I think Miami really has a special good run defensive nose tackle and defensive lineman in Jordan Phillips, and you hope that him and Kenneth Grant continue to grow together the rest of the season and are ultimately building blocks for this Miami Dolphins defense. Anthony Weaver, actually speaking to the media on Thursday in Madrid, said that Benito Jones and Zach Sealer have been consistent throughout the season. But some of those young bucks, referring to Grant and Phillips, had to become more consistent in their technique and fundamentals, and said that they have been getting better every single week. They were phenomenal against the Bills and Falcons, two teams that have top half offensive lines. The Bills' offensive line coming into the Miami game was graded out as a top 5 unit in the entire NFL. They had one of the best rushing attacks in the National Football League. And Miami made them look mortal and made them all rely on the passing game. And Josh Allen and Kirk Cousins, respectively, couldn't get it done. You got to give credit to Anthony Weaver. You got to give credit to these rookie defensive linemen. And you got to give credit to Jordan Brooks. One of your captains, especially on the defensive side, has been the best linebacker in football over the last month. He is as serious as it gets. He is a no-nonsense type of guy. He is a fantastic leader, and he was a home run signing from Chris Greer. Give him credit a couple off seasons ago when he signed him from the Seattle Seahawks. We'll look at some of his numbers and more of his leadership tendencies in a second. But this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. The weather is changing, but nothing ever changes in terms of feeling right, and you can cash in by being right on Prize Picks. Get $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Just pick more or less than at least 2 player stats, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in. Prize Picks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you could pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Want to go more than on Devon Achane receptions, fantasy score, and touchdowns? Well, now you can. All on Prize Picks. Buy entry for the game in Madrid this Sunday. More than Devon Achane receiving yards, less than Tua Tagovailoa passing attempts, and more than Marcus Mariota interceptions. I think Miami gets a takeaway. They had a couple of them against the Bills last Sunday. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. We're really focusing here on the last 4 weeks of the NFL season, week 7 through 10, because that's when Miami's defense has turned it around and become a unit that looks like a top half defense in the NFL. And Jordan Brooks, over that same sample size, I think has been, if you take all the metrics, all the numbers, you watch the film, has been the best linebacker in all of football. He's the 13th highest graded linebacker in this month-long stretch. He is the second highest graded linebacker in terms of his run defense. And just look at these two numbers here at the bottom of your screen. His missed tackle rate is only 4.9%. That's 8th best in the NFL over the last month. He has not missed many tackles. And his run stop rate is a absurd 13.8%. Only run stop rate that is higher than Jordan Brooks over the last month, Alex Singleton wore the Denver Broncos. He has been phenomenal this season. And it is what real leaders do. Real leaders not only speak and lead there, but also lead through actions and by example. People can go up to the media and talk about how we need to be better. I need to be better. We need to turn this around. They could say that all you want. But if your actions on the field and your actions off the field do not mirror those statements to the media, you stand no chance to actually make a difference. Jordan Brooks has not only done everything he said he was going to do in the media, on the field, and in the locker room, but he's also dominated the NFL over the last month. And apparently, Miami took away their Papa shot in the locker room. Who was behind that? Jordan Brooks. Anthony Weaver on the defense, speaking how they have started to turn it around a little bit here. I don't think you ever cracked the code against Josh Allen. The one thing I can say about our guys, the team has had continued belief throughout the season, and there's been a steady climb. We've gotten better every single week. I think Anthony Weaver is a damn good football coach. I've said this for the past year. I thought he did an excellent job in his first year as Dolphins defensive coordinator a year ago. I thought that he was going to be someone that Miami would have been concerned about losing in the head coaching circle. I mean, he got multiple head coach interviews with the Chicago Bears this offseason, as well as the New Orleans Saints. He actually was a finalist for the Saints head coaching position. Remember, he was in the final three. They ultimately went with Kellen Moore. And I came into this year saying, hey, if the Dolphins defense has a good season, he very well may be the next head coach for a different NFL team. I still think that is the case. I think he is going to be someone teams interview in their head coaching search. Does he get hired this offseason? I am not sure. But the way he is able to continue to have his players play hard for him, have these players improve as the year progresses, it tells me how good of a leader he is and how good of a coach he is. And I'm glad I never called him a bad coach. Make sure you are subscribed because whether it's news, rumors, or breakdowns like today's video, we have you covered every day with Dolphins content. We'll be live on Sunday morning for Commanders Miami as well. So make sure, Make sure you subscribe and join us. All right, listen. I don't take many victory laps. That's a lie. I definitely do. I am clearly an overreactionary guy. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I am very happy I never went to the length to say that Anthony Weaver was a bad defensive coordinator. When the Dolphins defense was horrible in the first 6 weeks of the year, I said that I do not blame Anthony Weaver. I blame the personnel he is having to deal with that was set up by GM Chris Grier. I was frustrated by some of the defensive play calls because I do get very tired of the edge rushers dropping out in coverage when Weaver tries to disguise a pass rush. That does frustrate me at times because it's just like, dude, let your best pass rushers, Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips at the time, Chop Robinson, get after the quarterback. So, yeah, those frustrate me. But the guy is a great leader. He's a great coach. And you've seen him be a good defensive play caller as well over the last year and a half for the most part. I still think he would be a good head coach. Would be a good head coach in Miami? I don't know. If Miami ultimately fired Mike McDaniel this offseason, I would have to imagine they interview Anthony Weaver for the head coach's position. Would they hire him? I don't know. Probably not. But he certainly is worthy of an interview. And it would be a bummer to see him leave this coaching staff and organization because I do think so highly of him. And I will go on the record to say he will be a head coach before his career in the NFL is over. Don't know if he'll be a good one, but he will absolutely be the face of a franchise at some point in his professional coaching career. That'll do it for today's show. You want more on the Dolphins? Go follow me over on Twitter at Nick_Roloff. That is my handle. Appreciate all of y'all, and hopefully I see you over there.